After you, what were you like during that time?
Ah, I won't expose my age. I was very young, and I'm still young. But no, great show. Lots of memories for everyone.
I don't like the remake of The Night Rider. Do you
No,
like Lance?
no.
Right?
Yeah, they killed it.
No.
Some of these things must just be left alone.
Very kids used to
Ah.
everyone wanted kids,
You can't break an original. It's hard. It's hard.
Good morning to you, Speeds. Welcome to Under the Hood as we rev up, as we always do. I'm Folake, and today we're going to be talking about turbochargers and superchargers. We want to know how well you know the difference between turbocharger and supercharger in Oshandire. But before we get there, we're starting off, as always, catching up with what has been happening in and around the automotive industry. Toyota. How many times did I say Toyota? Taff, what's happening with Toyota?
Our good friends Toyota have not been having a great year. I think started off with Daihatsu, and now it's come to the motherland, the headquarters, which was raided a day and a half ago in Tokyo because of suspicions and allegations of them falsifying safety records for some of their vehicles. Now, this is not a first for Toyota, but it's been something that's been reoccurring more recently, which is what is worrying. The company itself has issued an apology to all stakeholders and, of course, to customers. And it comes in the light that they falsified, or rather did not give enough information about the safety rating or standards or information about 3 particular vehicles. Now, the interesting thing is the vehicles mentioned, which are, maybe some people might not know the names of these ones, but the Corolla Fielder, the Corolla XEL, and Yaris Cross, which are just essentially international versions or country versions, that's Japan that is, for these particular versions of the Corolla. They might not come this side, or they can be rebadged to something else when they come over this way. But the long and short of it is that Toyota is a big force when it comes to the motor industry, consistently top or number 2 in terms of global vehicle sales. So when you start doing things of this nature, it does impact your reputation. And we've been seeing that the biggest buzz around it is reputation. Just to drive that point home, people in Japan, car makers in Japan rather, not only Toyota has been a bit naughty in terms of misleading or putting information that's not correct. Honda has been also been on that same page. So has Mazda, and so has Suzuki, and that's all this year. In terms of the information they put forward, which is not true, it has to do with maybe engine noise, engine power rating, in some cases safety information or data. But they've all come out to say, listen, we put our hands up that we gave people information that is not quite correct, but it does not impact the safety of our vehicles. And unfortunately for Toyota, the information which was put forward impacts the safety of their vehicles. So that has a very far-reaching implementation to a lot of other vehicles, Toyota related, that are on the road.
Yeah. What do you think could be the potential consequences, though? And you said it's not just Toyota, right? Did you mention Honda in there?
Yeah, Honda is there.
Honda is in
Mazda
there.
is there. Suzuki is there. All the Japanese, the mainstays in Japan are there. Yeah. Not all of them, but some of them are there. So the implications for me is perception. You know what? It takes me back to the time when there was Dieselgate, when VW falsified information about their emissions, particularly for the Amarok. So this car was producing more carbon emissions than what they let off. And then it was later found out that that wasn't the case. It was completely different. Brand perception. But I'll be very honest, brand perception at outside of Africa perspective or outside of subcontinent perspectives, because I feel that the impact will be felt in the Americas, the Europes, Japan itself, but I think they'll probably be limited, because these are the people who look at this information and it's taken very, very seriously. Versus us, we have some tolerances. It's very hard to say, listen.
Exactly.
So
that they would, no, I'm just kidding.
So I think maybe, in terms of brand reputation and its perceived trust in the brand, will take a dip. But you cannot go away from the fact that Toyota is a mammoth. It's a massive brand when it comes to the motor industry. They will get over this, but it will mean there will be a lot of stringent checks and balances introduced and manufacturing points, and that might streamline a lot of things along their processes to make things more transparent and to bring back trust in their brand.
Sounds like we're going to develop a stereotype towards Japanese automakers. It was Ndubezega, Suzuki, Nissan, Honda, Mazda. Yeah. Toyota being the biggest offender from what you're saying. Yeah. I'm wondering, Lance, you as an automotive industry, what do you think could be some of the measures these automakers need to take for us to have confidence in them again and to trust them again? But of course, I don't see us.
So look, it's not the first time Toyota is having these issues, right? No. Like back then, Corolla had the callback for a brake issue and stuff, but that did nothing to the sales of Toyota.
And also to reinforce Lance's point, Hilux had the same issue with Toyota not too long ago, where they were falsifying the engine outputs.
But no impact.
So, you know, like we talked about this, I think last week about one.
Yes, last week about one.
Yeah, we were talking about how the international standard or international governing body is coming up with these funny things, because I've noted like how Toyota race their cars, right? Look, it's in Japan, altitude is different, geographical location and all that. Then you take your car on a dynamometer to maybe measure the emissions and stuff. Then the figures vary a bit. So this is not something that we should really be alarmed about, you know. And look, Toyota has already made its mark in Africa. Even Japan, Japanese vehicles made their mark in Africa. So I personally think, it's a personal thought, I think that it's not going to do anything. To be honest, because the price is at the end of the day is what we want.
Yeah, 0719-100-404. When you're looking at this breaking news of Toyota as well as Honda, Nissan and Mazda also being listed as Japanese automakers who've been faking security tests for a while, does this affect the way you view any of these brands? Would it make you not want to own a Toyota, a Mazda, a Nissan? Or, it's just one of those things we're talking about. 0719-100-404. We want to hear from you. Moving on to our next story. Here's one. I'll give you a local one, and then you can give us the other two. The Zimbabwean government, if you might have seen this, has lifted suspension on 3 public transport operators licenses. That's Blue Circle, City Bus, and Simplex Coaches. And that's because of the fatal road crashes we've been seeing and sometimes breaching terms and conditions. The operators will now be placed on what they're calling a compliance monitoring program to make sure that they're sticking to the regulatory agreements. Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure Development will also use ICT tools to monitor compliance in real time. And we as a public are also being encouraged to exercise caution and report any violations. And the minister is also condemning recent acts of public violence at bus loading bays and ranks in Mutare, saying that really we must exercise safety and security. How did we get here is my question, my first question.
It's simple.
It's
quite simple because look, it's obvious that the bus industry's got money.
Yep.
So once a lot of heads are rubbing and stuff, this is what happens. Because you're noticing accidents are coming from speeding. Speeding is coming from the need to be at the next bus station before the other guy.
So you have more loads.
You have more loads as well. So it's basic. It's just a lucrative market. So I feel these measures will help because if they put the proper timetables, the time fares, like the student operators are allowed to go maybe from 11 to 11:15, and do that structure, it will work.
And reinforce that, I think, is also very important.
But Mgwagweni Namapurisa the whole way sometimes from Tari to Harare.
Unfortunately, of late we haven't been seeing any speed traps. And
this is actually true. I haven't
exactly,
seen a
for
speed
real.
trap for a
It's
long
been a
time.
while. It's been a minute. And I think it's something that needs to be looked into. And also since there's this geoloc and geo surveying of buses and stuff, I think we will start there.
Yeah.
Maybe if the government was to give a contract to a private company that's going to be, working on the speed items and giving data to the government, that it works. If a bus overspeeds, a ticket comes.
Yeah.
Something like that. A hefty ticket, like a big fine, something like that.
Do you think we as a public know what constitutes a violation of any regulation? Is it okay? I'll tell you a funny story. On one time I was on a bus to Mutare. And the bus driver was tailing a truck, right? It was so close that if there was no windshield, you could touch the truck.
Wow.
So I literally been for like being Madube.
Yeah.
I went to the guy and I said, listen, Linda, listen.
Linda.
This is not being smart. And what's even more scary is that the person who you will kill first is your own conductor.
Exactly.
So if you don't respect us, respect him. And you know, they tried to be, and I was like, you're too close. If this guy breaks, we are hitting this thing.
Just like what that accident that happened back then when the guys were like overtaking you into the side. You know, like that was it was sad.
Yeah.
But like what you're saying, the distance was really important. And I think refresher courses and you know, awareness. I've seen this traffic safety councils got various checkpoints.
Yeah, they're going out
where they're actually trying to enforce but you know how it is. It's just
educating saying don't do this.
Exactly.
So you still have to take the next step.
But then when you get out from an accident with a slap on your wrist, I mean, it's not gonna work. You know,
that's it.
You're just gonna pay the fine because already you got the money.
Are you feeling as if so far the consequences of this bad driving are just a slap on the wrist? They're not.
I feel so because look, I had a very traumatizing personal experience. I was parked at a stop sign.
Yeah.
And the bus just lost control, came rammed into me. You
know.
No. Station.
What about stop
sign? And you know what really irked me the most is when we went to the the police station. You know, they're not talking about road markings.
Wow.
You know, it just became a big can of worms. And I was like, I pulled out. I was like, it's my loss. You know, I had third-party insurance. My car was busted. I just went and repaired my car. But what really got to me now?
Imagine if you died, lads.
Imagine. Now, what really got to me is when I wanted to pull out the case, it became a big issue. You know, it's
it became your problem.
Exactly.
Your body pass stop sign.
Why
will you stop this?
See, so yeah, it's something I feel personally. Yeah, I may be emotional right now, but I feel like there have to be bigger fines when it comes to violations because. Look, we all do certain things on the road here and there, but to be honest, public safety is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A bus, if you're having like 80 people on board and you're driving recklessly, I mean, you should be fined or something.
Yeah,
you know?
And I think we as passengers don't feel empowered to be able to say this is not acceptable. It's not out to me.
Because we all know that we Indian drive. Some people are good, right? But there is incidents whereby there's verbal diarrhea and verbal insults and just become. And when you do want to take the issue to the next level, so then you can't fight that.
0719-100-404. Do you feel as a passenger you are empowered enough, one, for you to be able to recognize the violations that may come with being on a bus that may be overspeeding or breaking any regulation, but also for us to report effectively? 0719-100-404. And also, what do you think we can do or can be done to make sure that we as passengers are not only feeling safe, but we have the power to take the control we need when we are using public transport? 0719-100-404. One more story before we move on to supercharged or turbocharged. Ford, what's going on with Ford?
I think this is very positive regional news. Ford has now just made the millionth Ford Ranger of the Silverstone Pretoria manufacturing plant. I mean, of course, this didn't happen like overnight, and we're not talking about the Ford Ranger that's on the roads right now. This is from about 2011, if I'm not mistaken, way back before then, about 24 years ago. So we're talking about 2000s, 2001 era, thereabouts. Different generations of the Ford Ranger itself. They have just rolled off the millionth unit. This is massive news, I think, because it shows that South Africa's prowess is being a manufacturing hub for motor vehicles that are very popular. It pushes a lot of other aspects of the vehicle or its uptake within a region. Let's look at the Ford Ranger, the current model, which is very popular right now. I think in South Africa, they like calling their pickups bakkies for reasons only known to them. But it's one bakkie of the year, I think now 2 years in a row. It's vastly popular here in Zimbabwe, in neighboring countries as well. Everyone's talking about Ford Ranger this, Ford Ranger that. It's a very popular vehicle. And let's go back to what's caused this popularity. The fact that it's easily accessible to markets. It's being made next door. So, of course, the vehicle is made to our conditions. The supply chain is quite good in that it's readily available from just next door for us. And it helps to push vehicle in terms of penetrating markets locally. So the power of manufacturing in a region will help a brand to do quite well. And this has been evidenced by the millionth unit of the Ford Ranger being built locally. To be nice to see more of this being done in the region. It'd be very nice to see it being done locally here. The lifestyle pickup, I think it's one that's very showy. It's not going to be much in terms of the practical. I mean, look at this. Look at the specs of the vehicle. It's not one that's going to compete with horsepower, torque, angle of approach, things of that nature, crawl speed, and all that. Rear diff lock, center diff lock, front diff lock. It doesn't have all that. But it's a car that just looks good and looks like a pickup, and one can tell a story around it. I don't think it's gonna cause any problems in the markets for traditional pickups.
Lance, are you a Ford guy?
Yes, I love Ford.
You are.
Yeah, we used to race Fords back in the days and stuff. So yeah, unfortunately, there's a bit of an issue with the previous models from the last 3-4 years. But I've seen the new ones, the way they've been bought locally. It's impressive. And they look nice. They look nice.
It's imposing. Yeah.
It is imposing. And again, for me, this raises the question, is this still a functional bakkie, or is it now a statement bakkie?
You know what? Let's look at what's happening with bakkies in general, pickups in general. They're getting what the Ford Ranger did was create a monster, literally and figuratively. Because if you're looking at all new models coming out, the Amarok, the new Tritons, the new, let's talk about, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, the Chinese are bringing in their own bakkies. They're big. They're no longer traditionally the size, small and compact and functional and practical. They're now getting big. They have very masculine, very aggressive looking fronts, very aggressive angles. I think this is now the new style, but let's bring it back to practicality. I don't know.
You've seen the American market when it comes to these trucks.
Oh, it's massive.
It's massive. So I think we're getting up to that now. This is where we're going, because most people are doing projects. You're working, you've got a project here, you want to drive to Chinoi, you get your potatoes and stuff. Yeah. You want the speed, you want the elegance, you want, efficiency.
Yeah, but in America, I get it, right? Because their farmland is...
it's vast, huh?
It's vast, but it's also very... It's country. Do you know what I mean? You can afford to have your C10, your Ford out there looking good because it's country. Look,
let's give credit where it is. The roads are improving. Look, there's better road network as compared to a couple of years back. And Rome wasn't built overnight. You know what I mean? So also in the motoring, like we're always saying, always have a foresight when it comes to motoring. I personally feel the double cabs, this is where we're going to go. Like, we call them double cabs, yeah? Bakkies in South Africa, but this is one of them, my double cab.
Yeah, my double cab.
Yeah, single cab, double cab, not Zedwizos. And this is where we're going.
So you're sensing that's the future. Everybody's going to end up driving a bakkie.
Because it makes sense, because there's no point whereby you need to buy a single cab, then you buy a luxury car, and you also buy an urban car. So this guy is not, it's like...
But those things are not comfortable to sit in the back.
And that's where I differ as well.
They're not comfortable.
I would like to think for us, the future is SUVs.
Okay.
That's what I think. The future is SUVs.
I see what you mean.
I understand the practical element of the double cabs and single cabs, but those vehicles, they're very built for practical purposes, not particularly comfortable for my taste. And I feel the size they are right now is the biggest they should be. Now making it bigger, I don't see any addition to the practicality of it. In fact, I see negatives, more fuel consumption, more difficult. Take that car shopping.
And this is why I hear what you're saying. And that's why your Haval H6s are going to be big. Your Fortuners are going to be big. Your Mazda CX-5, oh Lord. CX-9.
But driving a Mini Gunyet, I'm not sure.
But I see what you're saying. Coming up next, we're going to be looking at our car issue, our mechanical issue, which is supercharged or turbocharged. 0719-100-404. Is your car any of these two things, and what exactly are they? That's all coming up next. So Lance, walk us through understanding what exactly is the difference between these two power boosting technologies, supercharged or turbocharged. Start with turbocharged. Okay. What exactly is that?
Okay, so charging, turbocharging, right? Supercharging, in fact, right? So we start with the turbo. So both the turbo and the supercharger force air into an engine, into an internal combustion engine, but the methods are different. So the turbocharger uses kinetic energy from the exhaust, whilst a supercharger uses a belt or a gear to be driven by the engine pulley. So logically or theoretically, if you cram in more air and fuel in the engine, it makes more power. Right? That's what they both do. So both have got their advantages and disadvantages. So of late, manufacturers have been implementing turbochargers more than superchargers because of the efficiency. Because the turbo is actually more efficient than a supercharger. And it also depends on the engine size as well, right? That's why you notice that most American V8s have got superchargers, and the smaller Japanese cars have got what? Turbochargers.
Right.
So manufacturers are now integrating turbochargers in most of the cars being built because it helps, because you've got a 3-cylinder engine with a slightly big turbo. You're making the same power as what? As a 6-cylinder engine or V8 engine.
Right. So turbocharger, can a petrol engine be turbocharged?
Yes, both petrol and diesel. Yeah, can come with turbochargers.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So walk us through that again. How exactly does a turbocharged engine work again?
Turbocharged engine, like it's an internal combustion engine, right? Your engine is an internal combustion engine, right? So what your engine does, basically, you can say your engine is an air pump. It just draws in air, mixes it with fuel, explodes, and you got power to your wheels, right? So now what the turbocharger does, it actually forces in more air and fuel mix into the engine. Hence the explosion becomes bigger and you generate more power.
Okay, all right. 0719-10404. If you also have any questions about your turbocharger, firstly, before we get into the supercharge and what the main issues you might be having with your car are concerned. So talk to us about the compressor. So does this mean if you've got a turbocharger, you also have a compressor in the car?
No. So now compressor in German is loosely supercharged. So if you use but my Benz C200 the compressor, yeah, kind of supercharged. Yes, that's how the decoding is. So you notice Mercedes took it upon themselves to use superchargers for an era, but now they've gone back to turbos.
Go back to turbo? Yeah.
Okay, so as a component, what is the turbocharger? What is it made up of?
Okay, it's made from aluminium. It's actually forged aluminium because it has to withstand high temperatures, because it can go up to maybe 500 to 600 degrees.
Right.
Because it's forcing. Remember, it's forced induction. Right. So when something is being forced, there's heat that's going to come in. Right. So how the turbo looks, it's mounted on your exhaust manifold. So when your engine burns out the fuel, that exhaust pressure actually turns the turbocharger. Then in turn, the other side of the turbo has an impeller with that sucks in air, and that air is spun at high RPMs and forced into the engine.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And so let's look at some of the common problems you may have when your turbocharger is malfunctioning.
Okay, so first and foremost, the first thing you experience is lack of power. Secondly, high or excessive oil use. Thirdly, high fuel use as well. And fourthly, a funny sound coming from the front of your engine.
Right.
Yeah.
So motors in a turbocharger, you've got in a turbocharger.
It's a big question.
It's a big question. Okay, it depends with the vehicle. You know what I mean? Because now GT6 not always okay. When you're going, when you're accelerating, when you're overtaking, you know, sound.
It's also sportier cars, but that's intentional.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's the sound we like.
We like.
Is that it?
Another sound. Maybe you're talking about the dump off.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that later. So what happens is most vehicles that like we say, manufacturers, when they make a car, the most important thing is emission and noise emission as well. So they try by all means to make sure that the turbo sound is suppressed.
Right.
So that's why you see there's funny intake manifolds. They've got special channels that they have to make sure the turbo does not make noise. Right. But it's also to not be some mind.
That's how noisy guys.
Driver EV that's so quiet. Where is the oomph in that?
So you see, that's the reason. So all those pops and bangs you hear or you see, there's actually things that manufacturers put in those so that we don't have those noises. So tuners have developed a way of removing certain things on the car. Right. Hence you get certain sounds from a turbocharged or supercharged car.
All right.
Yeah.
Are you likely to have any problems coming from a leak somewhere?
Yeah, you will, because once pressure leaks, you're not going to have the amount of pressure that's required for a certain event.
Right.
Give or take.
And this pressure leak is air leak?
Air leak, exactly.
Okay. Which will be coming from where?
Right. So what happens is when your turbo sucks air from the atmosphere, the air is channeled through what they call an intercooler. Right. This cools the charge. Then it goes into the engine. So remember, an engine, how it functions, it needs to know how much air that comes into the engine. So now if you measure, let's say, maybe 300 ccms of air that's measured into the car or into the intake, then that air leaks out. The fuel that's injected in the engine is actually waiting for the fuel the air that's been counted.
Right.
So if there's an alteration, that's where you're going to start having problems.
There's high fuel consumption.
High fuel consumption, yeah.
It's not balancing together.
Your oxygen sensors are packing up. Your power is going to die. You're going to have detonation. Engine explodes. Whatever. This is where it comes from.
Right.
Exactly.
Intercooler yo ayitsemukire.
Not some of the cars have got intercoolers mounted by the bumper. Sometimes when you hit onto something or so, it cracks. Likewise, with maintenance, you need to get your car, checked regularly, so that you don't have these things.
And I've also noticed as well the turbochargers, especially with some of the great imports that come in the Japanese vehicles, the ones with the turbocharger. Remember, they are put on there to maximize, to make the car more punchy with a small engine. It also helps a bit with the fuel efficiency as well. But when that turbo stops working now, someone's like, I just fuel efficient. This and this. But it's people overlooking the maintenance needs or just checking the turbocharger itself. And another maybe to add onto that as well, maybe with newer vehicles. Some vehicles are now bi-turbo engines, so they've got 2 turbochargers, not 1. So people have to understand that as well, and maybe understand why it has 2. I mean, a good example, I think we just talked about it, the Ford Ranger, if I'm not mistaken, is a bi-turbo engine, which means there's 2 turbochargers, one to help at lower revs, then the other one to help at the higher revs, just to keep the power consistent for that vehicle, which is why you can get so much power from such a small engine. So people really need to understand, I guess, you said this before, Lance. People must read that owner's manual, understand your car, and know that if it has a turbocharger, there is maybe a little bit extra caution or extra expense I must incur to derive best value for my vehicle as well.
Got you. 0719-100-404. Let us know also if you are having any issues with your turbocharger, and if you also have any questions that you may have. Are you likely to have any particles coming like dust?
That's why we've got the air filters. Every car, every suction device in the car, even the air that comes into your vehicle, there's actually a filter for that. Even the air that you breathe, those are cabin filters. So now where the turbo gets the air from, it comes from an airbox, and this is where the air filter is.
Right.
So particles are extremely dangerous. Just even if a non-turbo engine, if you do not have an air filter on your car, you have catastrophic engine failure, whereby your engine is gonna get worn. My rings are not apera. We heard people saying on motor my rings. So dust and particles aid to that way out.
Right. Smoke. I'm imagining smoke is coming in, and there are different kinds of smoke. White.
Yeah. Remember, an engine has got oil, right?
Right.
So there's seals and rings that seal off oils from certain chambers, from the combustion chamber and stuff. So once those seals are worn out, the oil starts seeping into the combustion chambers, or the turbo can start spraying oil into the intake.
Right.
And it becomes part of the combustion, and hence the massive smoke that you see. So 2 times more tables were priced in. Those are the terms we use.
And would you go price is normally like grayish, whitish?
Yeah, but the smell nyama kani oil
It's worth it.
So what we've also learned is the color of the smoke is very telling of what the potential problem is.
Yeah.
When
so
it's turbocharged, what color?
Any engine, right? Whether it's got a turbo or no turbo, right? The color of the smoke will tell you something.
Right.
For instance, if it's black smoke, like from a petrol engine, you know that there's too much fuel going in. Likewise, diesel as well. If the smoke is black, you know that there's excessive diesel being burnt.
Right.
Inefficiency. Then blue smoke indicates engine wear or turbo wear. So then there's a whitish smoke. A whitish smoke means that there's a lot of fuel, being unburnt. Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a look at our Zim Classic car of the week. I'd almost forgotten. Without telling us what the name of the car is, what are some hints? All you have to do is tell us if you can identify which Zim car this one is. I've mentioned it. I'm giving you a clue as one of my favorite classic cars. It was actually my did I tell you this? My BMX. I actually used to imagine my BMX was this car.
Okay. So it was sang by Solomon Skuza.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
He sang about that car.
Wow.
In fact, his girlfriend left him for a guy with that car.
What?
And most importantly,
I'm sorry, Solo.
and what is important is that car was actually assembled locally. Yes, it's a
Is
good
that car still on the road? Is this still being made?
Oh,
it sounds
some.
like
I've seen some.
people were happy.
maybe
Don't want
like a
it.
2024 version of that car.
Oh, no.
It's being discontinued.
We're
It
going
went
old
into
school.
the Mark
Old
X.
school.
It went into the Mark X, so the crown and stuff.
Yeah.
It got eaten up by that, but it was really common in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, it was a
And
status
plastic.
symbol.
Ah.
It was a status symbol.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
it
loved
was
that
a
car.
status
I
symbol.
loved it in red. Yeah. 07191040. Can you tell which car it is? Okay, so you've given us a clue. Solomon Skuza
Yes.
sang about it.
Yeah.
Then his girlfriend at that time left him
That's how good
for
the cut
a
was.
guy- for a guy who was driving that car.
Yeah, it's not an Alteza. And outside the Alteza.
Yeah, it's autism.
Solomon Skuza was not there. That's why I was also. And then you also said it's been replaced by a Toyota Crown.
Crown and Mark X.
And Mark
the
X.
Mark
Oh,
just
Mark X.
died into that.
Yeah.
It just died into that.
07191040. Can you tell us what ZIM card that is? And before we look into the cars we're pitting against each other today, we'll do Supercharge next week. But today we're just focusing on Turbocharge. Let us know if you have any questions, if you've had any difficulties with your Turbocharge on your car. And you may need some help. Any reasons why the Turbocharge may fail, lads, before we move into our highway code, as well as our versus.
There's so many factors there, but the biggest factor, like I was saying, is octane rating of your fuel, the type of oil that you use, and your driving patterns as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know certificate Chunich?
Yes, there's people who service them. You can repair it. There's repair kits you can buy online. There's people who got repair kits locally. It's something that can be repaired, but in extreme cases, you need to replace the whole unit.
Right. So if you're, imagine if your air sense, oxygen sensor is malfunctioning, it's going to have an effect on the turbocharger.
Yes, because what's going to happen, you're going to have detonation because your car just, goes to default, and either you got too much fuel or too little fuel, which is not good. It has to be perfect.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds.
It has to be perfect.
It sounds like there's quite a bit. We're talking this morning about turbochargers, which use our exhaust gases to drive the turbine, which is also then compressing your air into the engine so that your car can move like a breath of fresh air. Let us know if you have any challenges as far as your turbo is concerned, and you may want help trying to figure out what exactly is going on. Our highway code today. What's our question from our highway code today?
Right. So this one's gonna I think, you know what, I didn't research the answer. I took the question and I applied it to myself as I drive.
Okay.
And I hope everyone else thinks the same. Please don't research.
So
what
for
do you think is correct?
clarity purposes, is this in the highway code?
It is in the highway code.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right.
At an uncontrolled intersection, which traffic, or rather, which car should you give way to? At an uncontrolled intersection.
So it's a T junction.
The junction.
Which traffic, or rather, which car should you give way to? This one is an interesting one because of what we see on the roads.
To be the uncontrolled intersection.
Got you. All right. But intersection is nama robot.
It's uncontrolled.
Yes.
Which car goes first? 07191040. Interesting answers I'm getting here as far as the car you're talking about. Either you know who Solomon Skuza was, you know his story, or what? How is it that you might be getting this answer right? Let's and also let us know which car do you give way to first if you're at a junction and there is no control. Moves. I'm like, why are you this guy? Are you seeing that? And I'm like, I like you to be a cop. I don't want you to be a comedian or a clown.
I like that guy.
Let's leave that to Long John and stuff. You be the cop. But he even has gloves and he's doing the whole Michael Jackson.
He's a character.
Moonwalk on that.
He's a character.
Very soon.
All right, so let's look at our car. Which car is better? Suzuki Swift has been holding the reins for the last 2 weeks. And today it's going up against the Toyota Yaris.
Yeah, this time I think I've come prepared.
You come prepared to win this one.
Yes.
All right, so let's start with the Suzuki Swift. We've seen it's 4 generations now. Lance, take it away. Tell us quickly about Suzuki.
Yeah, Suzuki is just the car to have right now because I'm supporting it. Yeah,
You're
but so
supporting
far
it.
we've managed to decimate the other competition we had.
Yes.
Gota, Putisa,
Mhm.
Axel, even when I featured Trader.
All right,
Yeah.
let's take it away. Let's look at the capacity of
The boots.
the boot capacity, the cargo capacity of the Swift. Remind us again, Lance.
It's 265 liters. Ish. Yeah.
And just to remind my friend Lance, Toyota might be having problems globally, but it's still very strong locally. Our boot space is 286 liters, which gives us the win.
Wow, well done, well done, well done. Let's talk about utility of this, of the Yaris. What's the utility of the Yaris? Yaris.
Oh, the Yaris, oh man, you know, family car, singles, individuals, shiga. Hey, listen, it does it all. This car is very, it's the Swiss Army knife of little cars.
Got you. And so would you define this as a hatchback, a sedan? What's the body style?
100% hatchback.
Right, and so is the Swift.
The Swift, yeah.
Tell us about trims. How many trims does the Yaris have?
The Yaris itself has got multiple trims, lots of global ones, a lot of international ones. Yeah. You can get about several different spring levels of that vehicle. From basic all the way to somewhat premium. So it's got quite a lot of trim. Yeah. I would argue it's got more than the Suzuki.
Even has premium trims?
Yeah. Believe it or not.
Surprise, surprise.
The classic car is actually a very premium car. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. Lance, talk to us about the trims of the Suzuki Swift.
I stand with the Swift here, but to be honest, Toyota, being because it's got more versions. It's being made in South Africa. It's got so many trims, and as I was also doing my research, to be honest, it's got so many engines as well. It's got, if I'm not mistaken, it's got close to maybe 7 or 8 engine options.
But why are you winning for Yaris?
He knows what he's against today.
I'm a true car guy. Look, you know what happens when you some of these things. Suzuki Betoro, I don't even need to talk about a Lota.
He's clutching at straws, but we'll keep going.
Looks like you've already hinted at today's winner. Talk to us about the drivetrain of the Yaris. Let's start there.
Right. So the Yaris itself is as an all-wheel drive system, and it comes with it's paired together with either 5-speed manual or 4-speed automatic CVT gearbox. So it gives you a very comfortable composed automatic option, or if you want to go to higher capacity engine levels or more sportier version within the manual configuration.
All right. And Lance, remind us again what we said about the
Suzuki is with all-wheel drive, 5-speed gearbox manual, and the automatic. It's got less options when it comes to the gearbox as compared to the Yaris.
Okay. Yaris. How many times did I call your name?
Yeah, don't disturb your enemy when he's making a mistake.
Yeah. Talk to us about the top speed.
Right. Top speed, our Suzuki is on 170.
And the Yaris goes for 175.
Hey, Yaris. 175, huh?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, manufacturer claimed that. We haven't tested them.
His is also manufacturer claims. We haven't tested it either. It could be slower.
It could be.
Give us some insights into your powertrain. What were we looking at as a Yaris?
The powertrain, so we're looking at, in terms of horsepower, we're talking about, we'll give you the spread, I guess, in terms of the several different engines we have available. Goes from 98 horsepower from the smallest engine all the way up to 106 horsepower for the highest configuration engine.
Right, and in terms of the Suzuki Swift,
it's 82 horsepower because it's got one power plant.
Okay, Saka, looks like Yaris is taking this one again this week. All right, talk to us about how quickly you go from 0 to 100, Yaris.
do you want to start with the Suzuki first or with me? Are you sure you want to start with me? So 9.7 seconds, 0 to 100 time.
And Suzuki's 11.67 seconds.
Hey.
Wow.
You're being clobbered today, hey Suzuki. Today's not your day.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, we just need to give our listeners the real deal. We could rig this if you want.
Fair enough.
No,
we're not those people.
But the thing is, but the honest truth is, look, I accept defeat here because the Yaris is actually a very good car. Because when I was, just today in the morning, I was just doing a bit of research to see what I'm up against. It's like,
yeah. Talk to us about the interior. Toyota generally doesn't give us much as far as looks and things to and gizmos on the inside.
I think this is probably where Suzuki might take the edge a bit because they're a bit more modern in terms of the design language inside, even for a slightly older vehicle or the earlier versions of the Swift. Toyota, who hasn't seen a Toyota interior? It can go to, it has everything has a little bit more,
Got you.
but very basic, but functional.
And in terms of comfort, what are we seeing in terms of the Yaris?
The Yaris is very good. I think they're very composed. I mean, just look on the road, see how many of them are very popular in there. It's a very composed, very comfortable road. It doesn't give more than what it is. It is still a small car, but it gives you comfort that is above its weight, but don't expect more than that. Very comfortable. It does the job.
How would you find the comfort of the Suzuki Swift?
Swift, to be honest, is comfortable, right? But I've seen a Yaris with certain seats I liked, right? A beautiful bucket seat setup with red stitching. It was black. It was from factory. To me, I was impressed by that.
Right.
So I personally feel on this version, the Yaris could have better trim. I stand to be corrected, but from my own personal analysis, I've seen an Yaris that I really admired.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of the ride and drive, how are you finding the Suzuki Swift again?
Swift is rigid, let me be honest with you. It's strong in the sense that with the all-wheel drive setup and all, but the Yaris that I did drive, I felt like it was slightly better than the Suzuki. Personal opinion as well.
Yeah, I think I agree with Lance as well. Having driven both as well, the Suzuki tends to be, they want to give it that sports car feel. In a small,
yes.
Exactly. So everything is stiff and very firm, versus the Yaris, they treat it like an everyday drive. So it is a bit softer and more forgiving.
Got you. Talk to us about the cost of maintenance of the Suzuki Swift. Once I've bought it, how easy is it to find the parts?
Yeah. Good, like today it's Toyota's day, because look, Suzuki, there's a few dealers that are rather doing Suzuki, right, as compared to the Yaris. And now since it's being manufactured in South Africa, this Yaris, not knowing what Suzuki, because Suzuki is being sold by South Africa as well. But look, Toyota's got so many options when it comes to parts. I'm speaking from a service provider point of view. It's easier to refurbish a Toyota and to make it standard than the Suzuki.
Yeah.
That I can say.
We hear the Yaris has a traction control system.
Yes, yes. And again, as to the safety. So when you're looking for a car and safety is a consideration when you're purchasing, traction control is also another consideration. It means that you're a little bit safer with you and the family in the car. So that's another plus to the Yaris as well.
And what's the fuel capacity on the Yaris? How many cases is doing it?
Now that's where I think Suzuki might have a slight edge. But
Suzuki has more than a slight edge.
Slight. My eyes see the slight.
It's slight, because Suzuki averages as 4.6 liter to 6 liter per 100 kilometer.
Yeah.
And the Yaris is doing 5 liter per 100 kilometer, something like that.
It's very close.
So it's in the same range.
It's in the same range.
Yeah, okay. All right.
They're doing about 20 kg.
We'll give you that. Does it, in terms of after sales quality, what does the Suzuki Swift give us?
Look, after sales quality, Suzuki has this, how can I put it? How can I put it? I'm looking for the word. But Suzuki has given us quality over the years, unlike Toyota. But with the Yaris, I'll be honest, Yaris in a way looks like a hyped up version of a Vitz. It looks like a more comfortable version of a Vitz.
Yes.
That's how I feel.
In fact, in most cases, you might mistake it for a
exactly, but it's like a high-end Vitz.
Yeah.
So with that, I feel like Toyota takes it there.
All right. So because of time, which car is best, the Suzuki or the Yaris? This week's car goes to the Toyota Yaris. Wow. And price point though, the Yaris seems like more expensive than
It is.
than
I
the
think
Suzuki.
it's just got more trim options and better refinement in the manufacturing process.
Got you. All right. Looking to the car of the week, 9609. Good morning to you. Maganda at Willoughville Road, you were right. 4019, congratulations, you got it right. 9083, all the way from the US. You also were right in terms of which classic car we're talking about. Lance, would you want to quickly remind them which car it is we were talking about?
The legendary
Toyota Cressida. Congratulations to you that got it right. And for our highway code 3122 came through and says, Falaka, you must give way to the car on your right. So did 4997. So did 7322. Zvigai Falake, It's the car to your right. 4940 also said traffic approaching from the right. Taff, did they get that right or did they get that right?
According to the highway code, they got it correct. According to the Harare code, is give way to the car already in the intersection.
Or right of
But no,
weight.
right of weight. But no, 100% correct. Give way to traffic coming from your right. That's right.
It's Capital 100.4 FM, Harare Zabi. We'll be back again next week on Thursday. Every single Thursday, we are looking into anything to do with the automotive industry. Many thanks to Lance. Lance, how do we get a hold of you?
Number 775-981-647.
Taff, how did we get a hold of you?
It is very easy. Inquiries at zimoko.co.zw and ask for Tafato.
And with that, we're crossing over to the news bulletin. Becky K will be coming up next right here on the Pulse. Capital 100.4 FM, Harare Zabi. The Nubian Queen is out.